Welcome back to JavaScript programming series. In this video, let us discuss about arrow functions in JavaScript. Arrow functions introduced in JavaScript in the version of ES6. Arrow functions will provide us a concise syntax for writing function expressions in JavaScript. Arrow functions will offer a shorter way to define functions and have distinct characteristics compared to traditional function expressions. There are some advantages and also disadvantages when we compare these arrow functions with traditional functions in JavaScript. Okay, let us try to understand what are arrow functions in JavaScript. So let us see the syntax first. So when it comes to the syntax of arrow functions, so let us see. So here let us write a traditional function, JavaScript function. This is a function, welcome. Inside that welcome, I'll write console.log welcome to arrow functions. Okay, these are welcome to traditional functions. So this is a regular JavaScript function. So how we can write this using arrow functions? So in arrow functions, so function keyword no need to mention, and opening and closing braces not required. So how we can write this? You can see welcome equal to, okay, so this parenthesis, okay, this parenthesis we need to use. So that's the parenthesis and put the arrow, and we need to write this statement. That's it. Okay, that's the arrow function. So you can see here, so this is a traditional way of defining it. Okay, and this is the new way, that is arrow function way. So here you can see we are giving the name. Okay, so this is the name, so we need to keep it with a let. So this is the variable name which is holding the reference of this arrow function. So this is the place where we will put input parameters, and this is the place where we will execute the body of the function. So this is the syntax. So input parameters, and so this is the arrow, and this is the body of the function. So let us try to name it differently. So this is the wish arrow. Okay, let us try to execute this. Welcome, wish arrow. Node, arrow functions. You can see here, welcome to traditional functions, welcome to arrow functions. Okay, so this is the basic function writing using the arrow functions. Let us try to write arrow functions with parameters. So this is a function without parameters. This is also a arrow function, similar, behaving similar functionality. So without parameters, let us try to write a function with parameters. Okay, I have commented that function add two numbers, and inside this I want to return number 1 plus number 2. Okay, this is traditional JavaScript function accepting two parameters and adding those two numbers and returning it. Let us try to write similar function using arrow functions. Okay, so let add two numbers, and so here you can see, so we have discussed that this is the place where we will put input parameters, right? So this function is having two input parameters. So if you want to write similar function using arrow functions, you need to write like this. So give the variable name inside this variable we will store this function reference, and here you can see we are taking two numbers as input and an arrow, and we are summing those two numbers, we are adding those two numbers. And if you notice, there is no return statement. Okay, here we have a return statement, here we do not have a return statement. That means by default, okay, so if your arrow function is having single expression or statement, by default it will return that statement. Okay, so return statement in arrow functions is implicit. Okay, so meaning of this body is returning the sum of two numbers. Okay, so this part is equivalent to this part. Okay, so now let us try to execute these two functions. Okay, so if you want to execute, let sum equal to add two numbers. We are taking the sum into this and we can print that console.log sum, and that is calling the traditional function here. Okay, arrow function sum and logging that. Okay, let me write now. Let me execute now. So you can see both are behaving same. So now you understood the arrow functions with single expression. So we don't need to write function keyword, we don't need to write a return keyword, we don't need to put these flower braces. So when you are writing arrow function, we don't need to write function keyword, return keyword and flower braces, opening closing braces. So this input parameter place we need to keep, and this body we need to keep. Okay, you can see here. So now we understood how arrow functions can be defined and can be used, right? So let us try to create arrow functions with multiple lines in it. So here you can see it has only one line and this one also has one line. So but if there are multiple lines in a function, the arrow function definition will change. Okay, let us see that. Function add multiple numbers. Okay, so here you can see I'm adding multiple numbers. Okay, so here I have defined one method with multiple parameters, and I am looping through all those parameters and calculating the sum of those numbers. So in JavaScript, this is the REST operator, so which is newly introduced in JavaScript. Okay, if you put this, okay, so if you put this, so whatever the parameters we are passing, so here, so we can pass any number of parameters, all those parameters will be passed to this array. Okay, so this is the array of numbers, we call this as a spread operator. Okay, so now let us try to create similar function using arrow functions. So arrow functions, how we can write it? Let add multiple numbers arrow. You can see, so we have kept the input parameter place similar, and so in the previous example we have seen without flower braces. We also discussed we don't need to put flower braces. So we don't need to put flower braces in arrow functions only if there is one statement. Okay, if there are multiple statements in JavaScript, I mean in function, we have to put the opening and closing braces. Okay, so here you can see I have put the opening and closing brace, I mean flower brace, that is a function body, and inside that we need to write the logic. Okay, same logic. Okay, so in the previous example we have discussed we don't need to put return statement. Okay, so but so if there are multiple lines in a method, we have to return explicitly. Also, if you are putting the opening and closing braces, even for single statement, you have to explicitly put return statement. So I'll show you that example clearly. So now you understood this one. So this is the traditional function and this is the arrow function. Okay, here you can see. So we have just eliminated function keyword here. Okay, so remaining all same. So this is the body and we are calculating the sum and returning it. Let us try to execute this. Let, sorry, not let, console.log total sum, and here also let us print the total sum. Okay, these two are same. So let me execute this. So you can see same output we got because we are passing the same numbers. We got same output. You can pass the different numbers. You can pass the different numbers so that you will get. Okay, so this is not saved. Let me save it and run it. So you can see you got the different result. So with this, okay, so we have seen arrow functions with parameters and with return statement and with flower braces. So with this example, you might got confused. Okay, so where we need to put return statement, where we need to put flower braces, where we need to put. So this one, that one. Let me show you the clear example. One more example. Okay, so here you can see I'm writing one thing. So let multiply two numbers, and here you can see I am returning number 1 multiply number 2. Okay, so you can see this is one arrow function. Okay, so the same arrow function we can write it like, so the same arrow function, so we can write it like, we can put this body inside the flower braces. Okay, you can see here. Okay, so here I am putting this one line expression in the body. Okay, so this one is actually wrong. So this one will not return the value. So if you, this one is not equivalent to this one. So when there is only one statement and you are directly keeping that statement without flower braces, that means you are returning that value. But if you are putting that one statement inside the flower brace, that means this line will get executed, no doubt in that, but it will not be returned. That means whenever you are using the flower braces, you have to put the return statement. Okay, explicitly you have to put the return statement. So that means return statement. Okay, so this is 3. Okay, this is correct. So this will correctly return the multiplication result. Okay, and this will return undefined because we are calculating the multiplication but we are not returning here. Okay, so this will correctly return the multiplication result. And also we need to look at one more example. So here this one is the fourth example. What I am doing, I want to put a return statement here. I want to put a return statement here. So here, if you are having single expression, one statement, and that is not inside the flower braces, I mean body is not enclosed in the flower braces, so it is not right to put a return statement. Okay, this is wrong. Incorrect syntax. Okay, so now you got the clarity. So where to put the single expression and where to put the return statement and single expression, and where to put the body and where to put the body with return statement, right? You got it. So because this is getting the exception, let me comment that. Okay, so now if you are expecting anything out of your method body and you are enclosing that inside a flower braces, you have to keep the return statement. Okay, so in this case you don't need to. If you don't want to return anything, then you can put like this so that it will be calculated and ignored. It will not be returning any value. So if you want to calculate this multiplication and if you want to return the result, you need to put it like this. So these are the different ways we can define rightly or incorrectly so arrow functions. So based on this, you can become an expert of arrow functions. So make sure where you are making the mistakes and why you are not getting the result. So like that, there are many use cases in arrow functions. Please be aware. Okay, this is the syntax of the arrow functions. Okay, so let me comment this and let us go back to the slides. So we have discussed syntax and implicit return. So this is what implicit return is nothing but when there is a single statement. So we don't need to put return statement. By default, it will calculate and return the result. Implicit return. So explicit return is nothing but when you are putting your body inside the flower braces, you need to put return statement like this. That's the explicit return. Okay, so lexical this binding. Lexical this binding. So before seeing this binding, let us look at the arguments object in JavaScript. So here you can see this is a simple JavaScript function. Okay, and here I want to console.log. Okay, so I don't want to take any parameters, arguments. Okay, so this is valid in traditional JavaScript methods. So how we can call this? So we can call this, and these arguments will be collected from this arguments keyword in JavaScript. So what is the output of this one? If I execute this, you can see 10, 20, 30, 40. You can see, so we did not define any variables or parameters here. Okay, method parameters, but still we can pass the parameters and we can access using the arguments keyword. This is not possible using the arrow functions. Let arrow function equal to, okay, so console.log arguments. So here I am trying to read the arguments. Okay, so let's call this one. Okay, so now I'll execute this and you can see there is a big some random object got returned. Okay, so in our traditional JavaScript, we can clearly read the passed parameters, and in our arrow functions, that's not the case. We can see some random value. Okay, so in reading those arguments in arrow functions is not possible. Okay, that's what no arguments object inside arrow functions. Okay, so please be note that. And so in place of arguments, so you need to solve this problem, right? You need to solve this. So in place of arguments, you need to put the rest operator, 3 dots, args, or any name we can put, numbers. Okay, like that we can give any name. So here we can put nums. Okay, so this is how we need to use in arrow functions. Let me save this and run this. Okay, so now we can see the data we are able to read from arrow functions also. So this is what the difference, the important difference between the arrow functions and traditional functions. Okay, let's go to the next one. So not suitable as constructors. Okay, so let's see this. Not suitable as constructors. So here I am creating function person age, and I'll close this. Okay, so this is a person class I have defined here. I mean, it's a function only, but we can use it as a class and we can create an object of that. And let person arrow. Okay, so both are same. Okay, so this one also having 2 parameters and initializing them. This one also 2 parameters, initializing them, right? So now let me create the object for that. Okay, okay, so what I'm doing here, so I'm creating object with a new keyword for the first function, and I'm trying to create object with a new keyword for the second function. So here we are trying to create object for JavaScript traditional function. So here we are trying to create object for arrow function. Okay, let us try to run this. Okay, so you can see here we got the error. Okay, so this will throw the error. So this line. Okay, that is throwing error because person arrow function is not a constructor. So that means, so arrow functions cannot be used as a JavaScript classes. Okay, so if you want a class behavior for JavaScript function, you have to use that with the function keyword. Okay, traditional JavaScript methods only. Okay, so if you are using a JavaScript functions as arrow functions, you cannot create object for that. So keep that in mind. And the next one, so no super or new target. Super is nothing but parent class. Okay, instantiating or calling or passing parameters to parent class. So if the above point not suitable as a constructor, that means if you are unable to create object for that class, obviously you cannot pass or create object for the parent class. Okay, so the last point also not possible. So now let us see the third point, lexical this binding. So lexical this binding. Okay, so let me comment this. You can see here there is a object, user object I have created. Okay, so inside that, so there is a function and another function. Two functions are there. So inside that there is a set timeout, and here also set timeout. In this set timeout, I am using callback as the JavaScript traditional function. In this set timeout, I am using the arrow function as the callback function. Okay, so here it is a traditional function and here it is a arrow function. Okay, let us see. So here if you try to read the this dot name, okay, so this is referring to the global object inside this file. Okay, so you can see this refers to the global object. So this is not there in the global context. You can see everything is commented, nothing is there. So that's where we will get undefined here. So in case of arrow functions, okay, in case of arrow functions, we can see, so this is referring to the immediate scope. What is the immediate scope? This object is the immediate scope of this one. So that name will be, so this inside arrow functions, this is pointing to this variable, okay. So this object dot name will be read here, so that we will get the Alice in this place. Okay, let us try to execute this. You can see in the first execution we got hello undefined. In the second one we are able to read the contextual value, right? This one. Okay, so this is the second, third point, lexical this binding. Okay, so the relevance of this will be changing from arrow functions to regular functions. Okay, so these are the different concepts and syntaxes in arrow functions.